So tonight we're going to be looking at why to employ people with an impairment or disability. So grab a pen and paper, grab something to eat and relax and enjoy. First up, we will just do an acknowledgement of country. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, to their cultures and beliefs, to both elders past and present. 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their help, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys wouldn't see the light of day, and we'd be much more poorer for it as a community. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages Access and Inclusion Grant awarded to 30-foot drop as part of an Information, Linkages and Capacity Building Grant for 2018 and 2019. Housekeeping. We'll just go over some housekeeping so that you know how these workshops are run. First off, unfortunately, we do not have all of the resources to monitor all of our live streaming platforms. So if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, for instance, you won't be able to send me a chat message. But if you would like to send a chat message, just look below this video and you will see a link there with www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Hit that and that will take you to our website, where you can chat with us through the live box. We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we ask attendees if they can try and minimise any distractions. I know this is very hard at this time of night, and especially with what's going on in the world. Most of us are kind of stuck at home, and I myself am at home, so excuse my little kiddies if they decide to walk in. And also please make sure that 30-foot drop is tagged or mentioned in anything where you talk about us. We'd love to get the message out there, and the more people that know about what we're doing, the more changes we can make in the community. And if you know anyone, please let them know. Get them to register, get them to come along and join in on the webinars. Because, as I said before, the more people that know will benefit, and the more people will benefit from it if they do. We also record all of the webinars, so if you did need to go back on anything, you can rewind the webinar once it's finished. And there's also past webinars if you did want to go over those, but every single webinar is live so that we can have that openness with the chat box. At the end of the webinar, we do have a short survey, very quick survey, 5 questions. Before you go, if you could please fill out the survey. Okay, now let me introduce myself. I am Lisa and I am one of the Two Wise Monkeys. The other monkey is Ben, and he is the director of the Two Wise Monkeys workshops and 30-foot drop. His disability is more obvious than mine, but I will let him tell you about that when you see him next. As for me, I am hear no evil, so just by looking at me, you probably can't tell what I may suffer from. And through me, I hope that you will hear no evil about impairment. My story is more of a hidden one. At the age of 8, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. Teachers used to hit me on the head, read out my low marks, and yell at me in front of my classmates. Why don't you understand what's wrong with you? Making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. I used to go home crying to my mum every day, my mum and dad, and not really understand why I couldn't grasp things as quickly or in the same way as everyone else in my classmates in my class. But thankfully, nowadays there's a lot more help out there. And at the age of 13, I realised that I was my focus or my path was going to be creativity. So I ended up being really good at art and photography at school and passing and doing really well. And that's taken me all around the world, where I've worked in many galleries around the world, lived overseas, organised exhibitions, marketing for the exhibitions. I have done picture framing for 12 years where I frame museum grade artwork, all sorts of things. And I've really have enjoyed that journey, and I'm still going with it now. And you know, being creative is something I will always be able to have. I'll be able to do it even when I'm 80 years old. So it's cool, and I'm happy that that was chosen for me. So if you know anyone that does have a disability or impairment, please send them over so that they can feel confident and more positive about what their impairment or disability may be. So let's head on to the next part. Isn't there meant to be 3 wise monkeys? Ben is see no evil, I am hear no evil, where is speak no evil? Now you guys can take a guess as to who speak no evil is. Yep, it's you. Okay, so the aim of tonight's workshop is to turn you into that wise monkey so that you walk away speaking no evil about disability and impairment. And we'll begin on a journey of realising that impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be treated in the same way as everyone else. And if you did want to become that wise monkey, as you see behind me, there is a gorgeous t-shirt up there. I've got mine on as well, which we now have for sale on our website. So if you go into the website, you hit shop, you will see that there are 2 different colours. They come in black and white, and the sizes range from size 5, child size, to size 5XL. So please head over there and get yourself one. People stop me in the street. Everyone loves them. They're really cool. So now that we've done the introductions, I will go over the outline and method of tonight's workshop. So how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and the opportunities that they represent as employees in your business. First up, we'll examine and bust some of the common myths and realities around employing someone with a disability or impairment. After a little myth buster session, we will get down to the brass tacks and look at the subsidies available when it comes to employing someone with an impairment and how to access them. The final subject will be workplace modifications and how to access the funding for these. To finish off, we will do an open forum session where you can ask any questions along the way. The answer is how are we going to cover all this? The answer is fun, open and honest discussion. No questions are off limits. Feel free to ask anything you like along the way, and I'd be happy to try and answer them for you. Just one moment. We're done. Okay, off you go. You'll have to get Jaden to help you, please, okay? Sorry about that. No. Cara. Off you go. Good girl. Good girl, please. I will be back in a minute. Sorry about that. I knew she would walk in, that little one. Okay, so where was I up to? Yeah, how are we going to cover all this? The answer is fun and open and honest discussion. If we can't be open and honest about disability and impairment, and we can't let our feelings out around it, then things aren't going to change, things aren't going to get better. So that's why we want to get it out there, get the message out there, and everyone to be open and honest. And you'll notice on the slides that there's very little written content on there, and that's to make it easy for everyone to understand and follow. We don't want a complex PowerPoint where you're trying to keep up with the information, it's confusing, you can't relate to it. So yeah, it's nice and easy and easy to follow. Also, if you're watching off the platform of Facebook, you can now get subtitles. So just turn the volume down and the subtitles will come up, which is amazing. Okay, let's go over a terminology and review that we use within our workshops, and that's the difference between disability and impairment and access and inclusion. First up, we will talk about impairment. Impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss of difference of psychological and physiological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my medical diagnosis is mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is a loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level to others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to participate in something. So an example for me, someone with a learning disability, or there's lots of other different kinds of learning disabilities. For someone like us, too much wording, complex information, stylized script sometimes can even make it hard for people with dyslexia or learning disabilities to understand. This is especially important because it means that we're not necessarily getting the right information that we need to use your service. This is especially important to remember because some people's impairments are hidden like mine. So if you've got a complex website where it's not very straightforward, then someone with a severe learning disability or impairment is not going to be able to use your website. So make it easy to follow, and it'll just bring everyone in and it will be inclusive. In saying that, we will now talk about access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be checked off with a checklist. So you can have a business where you are selling things and you're not sure whether to step into the shop or whether the door frame's wide enough or whatever. You can check it off with an accessibility checklist, which is available on our website. So if you were unsure or you haven't thought about it, then head over there and have a look. Definitely worth a look, because your door frames might actually not be wide enough and you're losing all these customers. And we go over the percentages of what they are. Now, inclusion is more of a psychological state of being, and is a process hereby every person, irrespective of their age, religion, sexual preference or nationality, who wishes to, can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as everyone else in the community. So no matter who you are, what you look like, what's going on with your impairment or disability, you need to be made to feel welcome into every business and service. And if you're not made to feel welcome, then you're not feeling included and your business is not being inclusive. So please be aware that you do need to be inclusive for people to feel comfortable to come and use your business. So I'm hoping that all makes sense so far. If you do have any questions, please head into the chat box, follow this link below the video and head into the chat box. Next up, we will be getting into it. So, employing people with impairment, myths versus reality. Let's have a look at the 7 myths and realities that exist when employing people with a disability or impairment. These myths aren't just random statements that we've found out of thin air. They are 7 recurring reasons why people are not being employed with a disability or impairment from studies all over the world. Let's get into it. Myth 1. People with impairment need expensive modifications in order to be productive employees. Is this true or is this false? Not everyone needs it. Impairments are like people. Every single one of us is different and unique. So not everyone with an impairment is going to need special modifications. Our advice is to ask any employee what they do and don't need. So you'll be able to figure out that they do need this or they don't need that, instead of just presuming that they're going to need all these expensive things. Ben, my boss, readily admits that it can be expensive and that a wheelchair can cost over $20,000 and a car over $50,000. But the thing is, people that have these disabilities already own these things. So you're not having to fork out for a new car or a wheelchair for this person because they already have them. If an employee with an impairment or disability does need a modification within your business, then it's very often easy to work with, and there is also a good chance that they've probably been asked that very question before and they will know how to fix it. All you need to do is ask. Finally, if they do require an expensive modification or any modification, there is funding available, which we will cover later in the session. So it just shows that people with impairment do not necessarily require special modifications to come and work for you. And the modifications are available through job access. Now, myth 2. People with impairment are frequently absent from work. This couldn't be further from the truth. According to the Disability Investment Group, The Way Forward, a new disability policy framework for Australia 2009 stated that 86% of employees with an impairment have the same or superior attendance than other workers. Interesting. Studies also show that they also have a reduced turnover rate, which means less onboarding costs for you and your business, meaning that you will actually be saving money. Why is this the case? Well, studies show that people who have a disability or impairment have an unemployment rate that is double the rest of society. Double. It is absolutely crazy. But for these people with a disability or impairment, it takes them twice as long to land that job. One of Ben's friends actually applied for a job 183 times. Imagine that. That would have taken years of applying for jobs. So I think you'd be pretty grateful after having to apply 183 times. You'd definitely want to hold on to that job. So, like I said, due to the difficulty getting the employment for the people with disability and impairment, they view it as a total success, and they will go the extra mile to keep that job, and fair enough too. 3. People with impairment are only suited to unskilled work. Is this true or false? Once again, not true. There is a range. People with impairments and disabilities have a range of talents, skills and abilities. The Australian Bureau of Statistics reported that in 2012, 19.9 worked as professionals, 14.1 worked as clerical or administrative workers, 15.2 worked as technicians or trades, 11.6 run their own business, and 33.7 worked from home. Huge numbers there. So it just shows that people with disability and impairment definitely do want to work, and they are working. Okay, Okay, myth 4. My workers' compensation premiums and safety incidences will go up. This is a biggie. Now, it'd be interesting to know what you guys think here. Do you think this is true or this is false? Not true. Employing someone with an impairment does not affect your premiums or insurance. Does not affect your premiums. Insurance underwriters look at the incident history of the workplace and not the number of people with impairment working there. Further to that, studies have shown that employees with an impairment are 6 times less likely to have a WHS incident and are less likely to lodge a workers' compensation claim, which will lower your business insurance. It is thought that the reason for this can be attributed to the difficulty many people with disability and impairment find in getting a job. So if you are finding it hard to find employment, you're not going to risk that employment by breaking the rules or cutting corners. You're going to do the right thing because you don't want to be applying for 100 or so jobs again. Myth 5. People with impairment are less productive than other employees. Once again, not true. Studies have shown that when matched with a job that is within their ability, people with impairment are just as productive as every other employee. Coupled with this reduced absenteeism, reduced WHS claims and workers' compensation, and increased retention makes sense. And people whose productivity is significantly reduced as a result of their impairment or disability may like to consider the wage-supported system. With the wage-supported system, eligible people with an impairment can access a reliable process of productivity-based wages assessed to determine fair pay for fair work, which we will go over how that works very, very soon. Myth 6. Workers with impairment will not fit into my workplace. True, not true? Not true. In most cases, co-worker acceptance comes with awareness and observing other workers are competent and efficient at their jobs, regardless of their impairment. People with impairment make up to 20% of the Australian population, and the likelihood of clients or co-workers having a relative or friend that has an impairment or disability is high. Studies show that employer initiatives in hiring people with impairment can have positive bottom line results for your whole team, increasing staff morale and community recognition as good corporate citizens. In conclusion, your workers are just like anybody else and they just deserve to be given that chance. Myth 7, the last one. If they don't work out, I cannot discipline or fire them. Not true. Employing a person with an impairment or disability is just the same as any other worker. You must establish clear performance expectations from the start, and if they are unable or unwilling to do the job, you can take further action as normal. There are no special laws that prevent you from disciplining or terminating an employee that is unwilling or unable to do the job. So I hope you understand all these 7 myths. They're quite interesting to know, as some people probably thought that, the WHS claims would go up and your insurances and stuff like that. But it just shows they are no different. We are no different to anyone else. That's just given that chance. And there's help out there. And we will now go over what that help is. And this is only a tiny bit of what there is out there. So, subsidies. What subsidies are available? When employing a person with impairment, there are various opportunities depending on the job seeker's profile and role hours. These are designed to offset training and other costs during the initial period of employment. This is an amazing incentive for employers. These subsidies can be released in a lump sum or flexible payment, contingent on the award rates being paid, the minimum hours being worked as per agreement, the employee being registered with a Disability Employment Service, which we will go into deeper tomorrow. But now we will go over what some of these subsidies are for you as an employer, and the basic outlines and some further criteria may apply. Okay, wage subsidy is our first one. This is $1,500. The requirements are that the employee needs to be registered with a Disability Employment Service, and the candidate will need to average a minimum of 8 hours a week over 13 weeks. The intention of going on to doing 26 weeks with your business. And if they do finish at 13 weeks, then the $1,500 is still paid right up until the amount of money is still paid up until 26 weeks. So for you as an employer, you're not missing out on anything. Wage start is our second one. This is $6,000. The requirements are, once again, that the employee has to be registered with a Disability Employment Service and that they are under 50 years old and has been a long time unemployed, which is people that have been actively looking for a job for 52 weeks or longer. They will need to receive an average of 15 hours per week, once again, over a 26-week period. So with these hours, you can chop and change the hours. They don't have to be doing 15 hours a week every week. You could do 10 hours one week and 20 the next week, or 5 one week, and you can chop and change it to make it suit your workplace. But just as long as at the end of the period they have done, it's averaged out at 15 hours per week, if you get what I mean. Now the last one, we're getting into bigger numbers here, is the Restart Subsidy. This is $10,000, and the requirements are, once again, that you're registered with a Disability Employment Service provider, your employee is over 50 years old and has been long-term unemployed and actively looking for a job for 52 weeks or longer. They need to receive at least 20 hours per week over a 26-week period. And once again, with the hours, you can change them up a bit to suit your business. Now, so there's a lot to take in there, and there are so many more other subsidies available, and we will go over tomorrow how to access them and who you access them through and how it all works. So please join us for that. But now we're just going to talk about the wage support, the supported wage system. This is particularly more complicated, but it can work out for a lot of people. In short, the concept revolves around fair pay for fair work. So it allows candidates who can't perform all the job requirements to receive a productivity-based wage. And this does not disadvantage you as an employer, which is good as well. An assessment determines the gap between the actual required or standard performance due to the worker's health condition or disability, and the percentage of the hourly rate is then payable. So an example of this is if it's determined that someone is producing work up to 70% of the job requirement, then the relevant award rate is payable at 70%. So hopefully that makes sense. And it's good. It could work out really well for a lot of people. Okay, now let's get into how we access these subsidies. Now you can access these subsidies by contacting your Disability Employment Service to get started today. There are many different disability employment services around, so it's just a matter of looking up who they are and which one grabs you and you feel most comfortable going through. We'll be covering this tomorrow, which is really great. Now, we'll just go into what is job access, because this is different to the Disability Employment Services. Job access is a national hub for workplace and employment information for people with disability and service providers, employers and service providers. They are funded by the government by an employment assistance fund. They offer financial assistance for workplace modifications to assist people with disability and impairment to then gain meaningful employment. So these people are helping people with disability and impairment, helping with the funds of getting them in the job, helping with the modifications that might need to be made, helping with anything else that they might need to do to then go and work for you. Let's go over the workplace modifications that you could possibly do within your workplace by using job access. So, you could use job access for assistive technology and services, such as the cost of making adjustments to the physical workplace itself. The money could be used for modifications to work vehicles or specialist equipment for the workplace. You could use them for information and communication devices for your employee. You could also use the money for Auslan interpreting services to come in and teach some Auslan. Specialist services for employees with specific learning disorders or mental health conditions. Use them for the whole team in the workplace and get them in to do a disability awareness training workshop, which could include deafness awareness, mental health awareness, and first aid training. So Job Access have all of these things available. They are happy to help with all of the things that I've just read out to help your whole team understand how the person with disability impairment works, and you can help them understand them if they have a hearing disorder, or help your employees understand someone that may have a mental health condition. So getting the right people in to explain everything, and it's all paid for. Now, what is the application process? Most disability employment services will facilitate and arrange any assessments that are required. They know what they are doing, and they are brilliant at their job. But you can also do it yourself. So you submit your application to Job Access. Job Access then assesses the application. If the application is successful, Job Access advises if a workplace assessment is required. If you're asking for something big, they will then come and assess it and have a look about what is required to be done. And if no assessment is needed, then the workplace purchases the goods and services and then gets reimbursed by Job Access. If a requirement is needed by Job Access, they will arrange a specialist to confirm the modification and validate it, and then you can also get them to go over anything else that you might need to go over. The workplace purchases the goods and services once again and is then reimbursed by Job Access. So some businesses may be put off by, oh, I've got to fill out this 10-page document so that I can get this person to come in and work. It doesn't need to be that hard. Job Access will do all of the paperwork for you, and so will the Disability and Employment Services. It will all be sorted out, so it's an easy process for both the employer and the employee, because we all want to give the opportunities to people with disability and impairment. And if it's made too complicated, then it's not going to happen, obviously. So it's done so it's as easy as possible. Let's go over the funding caps, which is the last part for tonight. Physical workplace adjustments and building modifications are capped at $30,000. A lot of money. Auslan Level 1 is capped at $6,000. And it's for work-related activities for employees who are deaf or have a hearing impairment, including remote interpreting and real-time captioning. It is capped at $6,000 for 12 months. Auslan Level 2. Interpreting is for job interviews and related activities such as site visits, completion of tests and information sessions for people who are deaf or have a hearing impairment. This is uncapped. Auslan Level 3 is to help co-workers receive training in Auslan Level 2 to communicate with the employee who is deaf or has a hearing impairment, and who use Auslan as their main method of communication. It is capped at $855. Disability awareness training. So if you employ someone with a disability, then you can get some people to come in and offer disability awareness training, which is $1,500 per employee with a disability. And Ben and I also offer the disability awareness training for businesses to help businesses understand what it's like to have someone come in with a disability or impairment and make the process easy for both parties, both the employee and then the other co-workers. So I hope that all made sense for you guys tonight, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. There's so much information to take in, and every webinar is different. Tomorrow like I said, we'll be going over the disability employment services. Then next Tuesday we go over the stats and the population charts of who's affected, how it's affected them, and what we need to do next. But now I will head over to the question time. If you do have any questions, I'd like you to please jump into that link below and send me any questions that you have. But if you do have to go, please fill out the survey before you go. We would appreciate that so much. I will press the hold button for 5 minutes, and I will be back very soon to answer any questions if we have any tonight. But yes, I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing whoever wants to join me tomorrow for Tapping In Part 2. I'll see the rest of you soon when I come back from the questions. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. There doesn't appear to be any questions tonight, which is fine. I hope you all enjoyed it tonight, and go on and have a good restful night tonight and take care of each other. I will see you all tomorrow for our webinar part 2. And then we will be finishing off for the week tomorrow and starting again on Tuesday for webinar part 3. So please join us for those. It's really important that we get the messages out there, and the more people that we can help and change lives for people, the better we will be as a community and people as a whole. Thank you very much. See you later.